Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
Honestly, one of my favorite guys in the league. It's Guilio Caravatta. Hey,
How are you?
yeah, I'm doing great, buddy. Hey, I,
Good.
I, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I got into a bit of a spat this week with Luke Wilson.
No, I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, I don't want to drag you into it, but what I do want to ask you is there anything about our game that you would change? If you could change anything, would you change anything, or do you like it the way it is?
Well, I obviously, you're talking about what Luke Wilson said, and I know that everybody has said, Luke raised some good points, and if I'm just off the top of my head, if I'm the one thing I don't agree with is I don't like to reward failure.
Hmm.
I don't like the idea of allowing a single point on a missed field goal um, if it goes out the back of the end. I don't like that rule. Because as I said, I think it rewards failure.
Hmm.
Um, but the other stuff. I mean, the third and ones that's just the game, right? And I think given you know the particular game he's talking about, Saskatchewan and Toronto, like the penalties, that's an anomaly. Like, what were the penalties tonight? There was 4 penalties for 50 yards on Edmonton and 2 for 15 on Winnipeg. You know, that's probably on the lower side. It does get higher. I
Hmm.
get that the penalties were a frustration, but those kinds of games happen. As far as the end of games, right? The time clock is what it is. Like those are the rules. The one thing I don't, what are the changes then?
Well, that's what I've asked, and everybody says the first thing they say is go four downs. How does go four downs make it more interesting for young people? It doesn't, because here's the next thing you're going to hear. This is what you're going to hear. Well, why would I watch the four down CFL when I could watch the four down NFL? This is an imitation
Well,
minor league knockoff.
here's the thing. I know that you've raised this point many times, and I totally agree with it. Is the idea that the league has to do a better job of marketing and doing those kinds of things as opposed to going after the game. Yeah, are there things that they could do better? Absolutely, no
Hmm.
question. I mean, we could probably debate a bunch of that stuff. But I think one of the things about bringing a younger generation to the game, it's just when you look at social media and what it's done, but you look at um, the betting, you look at fantasy, and I'm sorry, I mean, when I worked in the fire hall, I was surrounded by a lot of young guys that were really into sports. They weren't into the X's and O's of sports. They followed it because they were in 4 different fantasy leagues or they were betting.
Hmm.
That's what they followed. They weren't following the strategy. They weren't following anything. All they cared about was, hey, is Trevor Lawrence going to get me 25 fantasy points so I can win? That's they're not worried about the strategy or the end of games or all that kind of stuff or the rules. All they care about is hey, are they going to cover the spread? Are they making? Am I going to win my fantasy week? And that's that's a whole different kind of
Well, look, we
argument.
were gonna do we were gonna do this interview a little bit early before the end of the game. I said, no, 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 wait, I got to see if Edmonton covers,
Yeah,
and they didn't cover. They didn't cover.
yeah,
Damn
but
it! Yeah.
but that's the reality. I have I coach at the high school level,
Hmm.
right? A lot of those kids are it's kind of scary to think at that level that they're betting,
Hmm.
and right, it's so I appreciate. This is what I appreciate. I appreciate the passion. I
Hmm.
appreciate the that he's got people talking. But I think I mean, like there's a lot of different layers to this thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that the league needs to try to address, right?
Well, like I said, and pretty vehemently, the game isn't broken. There's lots around the game that's broken. It was nice to see Stuart Johnston actually say that same thing in Winnipeg this week, that it's not
Hmm.
the game, it's everything else around the game. So let's talk about Winnipeg for a second. I've said this many times on this show, back in the radio. When I was growing up, if your team went into Edmonton and won a game, July, August, it was like you won a Super Bowl, or a Grey Cup, sorry, or a Super Bowl. Like, you were so pumped, like, we beat the Eskimos, okay? Like, it was like an automatic loss. Or even in the Don Matthews BC Lions era there, like that, the 80s, you go to BC Place. We still only had one NFL game a week on TV, so it wasn't inundated. So it was still 45, 50,000. It was a tough place to go in and play. And I feel like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are the only team with real home field advantage. I don't think, all due respect to the Riders, they don't even have the crowds. When I watch a Bombers game now, Julio, it reminds me of the Jim Hobson Rider era from 2006 to 2014, Old Taylor Field, where it was it was nutso in there.
Yeah. Well, it goes in cycles, right? Because
Yeah.
you tie that into the success of the
Yep.
team,
Mm-hmm.
and what they've built in Winnipeg is, Michael Shea and Kyle Walters deserve a ton of credit, because they not only do they build great teams, but they've created a great culture,
Mm-hmm.
and that's now evident with the fans, right? That they want to go out and see the product because they know what they're getting,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the envy. I mean, I think back to when I played. You're right. It was Edmonton. It was Calgary. They were places that you hated going, because you knew that if you didn't play your best football, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
And so Winnipeg has that mentality. And I know over the last couple of weeks, that with the Lions playing them back to back, right? They have an aura around them right now, and that it's almost like you gotta break that curse, right? You got to be able to slay the dragon, as they say, and try to find a way to beat them, but a lot of it has to do with just how good a football team they are. Man, oh man, they don't hurt themselves. They don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
They rarely make mistakes that hurt them. And you look at the game tonight, right? That there was a roughing the passer late in the game that extended a drive that really, had they been able to get themselves off the field, they didn't. And then Zach Claros turns that into a touchdown that really kind of, is the end of it. But as I said, and I've watched this team very closely over the last few years and over the last couple of weeks. They again, that thing that really impresses me is that they just don't hurt themselves. They play very smart, simple football, but it's just so effective.
I saw some flashes from Edmonton, though. They
Yeah.
had some flashes on offense, and the defense actually made
Yep.
some plays. Like, they were hanging around, but the third quarter they owned. But Winnipeg always owns the fourth quarter in
Yeah.
Winnipeg. In fact, Edmonton didn't get a first down until garbage time. It was like 11-0. Like, so. But here's a real troubling stat. Not like it's a big revelation, but 2 years and a bit now, in June and July, the Edmonton Elkimos are 0-18.
I know.
0-18. And I'll tell you what, Julio, as Yogi Berra would say, it's getting late real early for the Edmonton Elkimos.
Yeah, I mean, I hate seeing this just from a league standpoint, because there's such a great tradition there, and you know, I mean, I feel for the organization, I feel for the fans. They again, it almost seems like they've got to win one of those games to get over that hurdle, and they're at a point too, right? Even with the new regime, it almost seems like, hey, when they're close, it's like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to go wrong? That's going to take this away from us. But as you said, for 3 quarters, they were right there, right? And that defense, they get after it. I mean, that Niles Morgan and Anderson in the middle there, they're as good as a 1-2 punch at linebackers there is. And then the other part too is that defensive line is very good too. Serezna's one of the best in the league. So it's going to come together for them. It really is. I truly believe they have the talent. Now, I know the question with Trey Ford, and I understand and respect the idea that he's a good young quarterback and he needs time to develop and all that stuff. But at some point, I mean, they got to win. And if, they continue down this road, you have to think that Cody Fajardo is going to get an opportunity here to see what he can do. And And the part that I in my own head that that I wrestle with is that we need good young new quarterbacks in this league. And one of the realities is they need time to develop. It's not easy, right? I always tell people that, like, playing quarterback is not easy, and you can't master it in, a few games or a year or 2 years. Sometimes it takes 2-3 years to get that, to feel like, hey, you're the light kind of goes on, the game
Well,
slows down for you.
Well, Cody's that guy.
Yeah,
Cody was a
yeah,
third string guy, but like you've said before, the Canadian quarterback gets a short window to prove he can
yes,
play. The American quarterback gets a long leash to show he can't play. That's the
yeah,
difference in the mentality. But here's the problem for Edmonton. If Trey Ford was in Winnipeg and they are coming off 5 straight Grey Cup appearances, winning 2, losing 3, and Zach Collaros is done and they're bringing in a new quarterback and it's time for an exciting rebuild, you could buy it. In
yes,
Edmonton, you can't buy it because you don't have a runway. You got to win
yes.
now.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You got to win now, and that's the part that I wrestle with, right? I understand. Like, I know I've heard Mark Killam say this. Like, Trey's our guy. We're moving forward with him. He needs the time. I get it, and I agree with it. But the other side of that, the business side of it, tells you that, hey, we gotta win games, right? We gotta get out of the schneid here. We gotta get our fans excited about the game, and we gotta win. And that's the hard part, right?
And from the Trey Ford side of things, I think, they changed the regime because he felt, I think he was getting jerked around
Yep.
and he was probably going to leave, and they changed the whole regime and gave him more money, not like break the bank money, but 300 and some thousand. And they brought his brother in. It's like, no, we're going to make you the guy. So you kind of got to give him a bit of it's a
Yep.
slippery slope because you got to give him a leash, because if you don't, he'll be like, excuse my language, he'll be like, fuck you guys, I'm done. I've turned it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He might turn it off.
Well,
And that's it.
again, that's the dilemma that, and here's the other part too. The reality is, these young coaches that have, now are started getting those opportunity, right? Like, they have to win, right? Like, like you say, I don't know if I've ever heard a team say, oh, hey, we're gonna be rebuilding for 3 years. We want the fans to be patient, but we think in 3 years we're gonna be really good. Yeah, you ever hear anybody say that? Every year, every CFL team, it's got to win now. We got to do it, and that puts a lot of pressure on the coaches. It puts a lot of pressures on the quarterbacks and the players to win, because there is no rebuilding. That you got to do that stuff on the fly.
Hey, speaking of Cody, when he played in 2019, he had an oblique injury. He was Herculean. I've always said this about Cody Fajardo, and we'll stand by it. You won't find a tougher guy on a field than Cody Fajardo. So he played with an oblique injury in that West Final against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Your quarterback has an oblique injury. Just from a quarterback standpoint, because you played the position, how tough would it be to be a quarterback with that? Because you need that torque, right? You need the midriff torque.
Here's the reality: is what we don't know is the severity of the oblique injury, right? Like, that's something that we don't know. Was it a tear? Was it a strain? If it was a strain, what was the degree of the strain? All those kinds of things. So, I've been at practice every day this week watching him, and, Nathan has been very, very, and not just Nathan, but I think the Lions are being very calculating on his return and how much work he's doing, what he's doing, what kind of throws he's making. Now, I've seen him out running with the first team and making all the throws. He didn't throw deep, but he made all the intermediate throws. All those kinds of things look fine. Today, he didn't throw at all. So is that part of the medical staff saying, hey, listen, you've thrown a couple of days. We're going to give you a little bit of rest now. You're going to rest tomorrow because it's a travel day. And then Saturday we're playing late in the afternoon. It almost gives you another full day. So is that the approach? They haven't told us, but I would think that that's what they're trying to do to maximize his rest. But I really honestly can't tell you whether or not he'll start or he won't start. It wouldn't shock me if he didn't, and it wouldn't shock me if he did.
So we were talking betting. If we were betting your sweet, sweet fireman retirement money or my car dealership money and podcasting money, which I don't make a lot of here, so it wouldn't be a huge bet. Do you? I think it's going to be Masoli versus Jake Mayer in the matchup. That's what I think is going to happen at this game on Saturday. Trevor Harris. I was at one practice. He practiced with a ball cap and didn't do anything. The next day, I wasn't there, but fans told me they saw him go in the parking lot with his backpack and a suitcase, went to the car and gone. Now they say he practiced in the closed practice and took first team reps. Do we believe him? Do we not believe him? But then they said he was questionable. So what first team reps did he take? Did he throw a couple of swing passes out of the backfield? I'm going to say it's a long season. We won't see number 12 or number 7 in the game.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Trevor goes, do you really want to risk that in when you're 3-0 and you've got an experienced backup quarterback like Jake Mara? I can't answer that. I know personally what I would do. I wouldn't take any chances. I know the players always say they want to play, and I'm going to be fine. But again, I don't know what the severity is. I don't know how he feels or any of those things. So. To your point, if I was a betting man and I were to say Mayer versus Masoli, I would say that's more than a 50-50 shot.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so just to give me your thoughts on the Lions through the first 3 weeks heading into week number 4 here. What you like, what you don't like.
Yeah, I really like what I see on defense. I think they've been very good on defense. Sure, there's the odd drive that they've given up, but I thought overall, like last week against Caleros, I thought that they did a very good job. Mm-hmm. I think they're more physical. They're better tackling team. So I like the direction the defense is going. Offensively, it's tough. Now Nathan missed last week, and after week 1, I thought he looked excellent. And going against Winnipeg, they're a good football team. They struggled a little bit last week. I think they missed some opportunities, but I really can't get a complete gauge. If Nathan Rourke is 100% healthy, I like them offensively. I think they got some weapons. I think they can, spread the ball around a little bit. Special teams is still up in the air for me. I think Carl Meyer has done a great job kicking. Sean White is Sean White, but their coverage teams in the return game, they need to be difference makers. They need to, we always say, Ballsy, there's 3 equal phases in this game, in this league, and you need your special teams to be special sometimes and get you out of trouble, get you a big return, win you a football game on the last play of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what we need to see from the Lions return game, right? Is they need to be a difference maker and help their team out, right? So
yeah.
Overall, I think that they're going to be in it towards the end. I think that they're only going to get better on offense, especially if they stay healthy. But overall, I like what I see so far.
You mentioned the kicking game. So listen, I'm maybe old man yells at clouds. Like, I'm pretty protective of the 3-down game. My problem is if we change one little rule, then maybe, okay, so what we did. Listen, I'm not outright saying you were wrong with, you don't want to reward failure. And by that, you mean have it kicked through the back of the end zone or the side of the
field goal.
Or the
side, field goal.
Yeah. But I'm okay with the missed field goal wide in the end zone, and the guy tries to bring it out, and he gets stopped, and that's a point. That's part of the game. Like Mario Alford running it back against the Argos when they tried a stupid 56-yard field goal a few years back,
totally
and I called that one. Right? If it goes out the back of the end zone and it's not touched, I'm like, okay, I maybe can live with that. But my only problem is, like Wally told me, you change one little rule, then you change another little rule, and all of a sudden you're starting changing the game.
The other part, though, I get that part too, but they changed the punt rule a little while ago too, where they wanted the punters to kick to the returners, so they punished them if they kicked the ball out of bounds before the 20.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It's you're not rearranging all the like I'm with you. Like I like the idea that on a missed field goal, like, hey, you have the option if you want to go down on a knee and take the field position and give them the point, then do it. But I don't like the idea of a guy lining up for a 30-yard field goal and missing it. It goes right out the back of the end zone, and you get a point.
And the game's over. Yeah, no, I get it. And
I don't like that.
You'd hate to see a Grey Cup end like that, and it very well could.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
no,
that, to
I
me,
agree.
I'm just not. I'm not a fan of that. I never have been.
No,
So I'd like to see them maybe try to change that.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So,
I
but
agree. I
that's
agree.
what makes our game unique. But
Yeah.
as you say, in order to grow and in order to keep up, and they've done a great job with replay
Mm-hmm.
and how far along they've come with that,
Mm-hmm.
how much more efficient it is.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud the league for taking those chances and being the front runner
Mm-hmm.
on those changes.
And
But at the
I'll
same,
give TSN a plug too. They've done a better job with their camera angles and
oh,
production this year
did you
too.
see
They've done,
that today
yeah,
with the brand interception?
yeah,
That was outstanding.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
initially, I thought, oh, he has it. There's no question. But all those angles,
yep,
you could see the ball clearly hit the turf.
yep. I like that.
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that they've done a very good job. So you know, to the beginning of our conversation, sure, the game needs to evolve, and we need to discuss it and see how we can make it better. But overall, I don't think that it's there's a lot of like real drastic measures that we need to take in order to make it better. I think it's been really good for a long time. Are there things we can do? Sure. Let's have the discussion. That's
Well,
what makes it great.
yeah, I like that. And, hey, and I said about Luke. I'm glad he brought it up. It kind of I've been bitching and waving all the time, and now somebody else is in it and going the other way. So it was invigorating. My thing is the game isn't broken. Everything else around it can be tweaked and make it better. And then if it's still not going, then maybe we'll look at the game. But 4 downs won't be the answer. Lastly, you talked about new quarterbacks. He's hurt. He's not going to play this week, unfortunately. But Davis Alexander, you're wondering, is there enough of a runway for them to go with him instead of Cody Fajardo? He kind of has a little Cody in him, I think, with a better arm. I like what I'm seeing from Davis Alexander.
Oh, he's been outstanding. Outstanding. Let me just say this about Montreal, because Montreal is like Winnipeg for me.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Machocha's done an outstanding job. I mean, they really, their coaching staff, Jason Moss, Noel Thorpe on defense, they just continue to reload. And the one thing I appreciate is this with Davis Alexander is there's not very many people out there that maybe make that move, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sample size wasn't that big. But what I believe in, and I've talked to Ryan Rigmaiden, the general manager for the Lions, is that, when you become a general manager or you're a scout or you're a coach and all those things, you know what? You need to trust your experience and your knowledge in what you see and believe in what you see. And you have to take those chances if you want to be great. And Wally Buono did it better than anybody. And you look at Danny Machocha and they evaluate, they see, they think, you know what, this guy's gonna be a starting quarterback, and he's gonna be a very good one, and you have to trust it and believe it, and you make those changes, right? They did a great thing in, saying he's our starter, but the other smart thing, what do? Go get a veteran backup.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a fallback plan, and McLeod Bethel Thompson's going to start this week, and I don't think they're going to miss a beat because he's a good quarterback. So
Yeah.
I love seeing that, because I really appreciate the job that those guys do, and in trusting in their eyes and their experience, and knowing when you see a good player and when you don't, and when you do see one, you're not afraid to pull the trigger and put him in there and say, hey, we're going to live with this guy because I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah. Hey, when you come to Regina, do you pick up the tab or Moj?
Oh, Moj all the time.
He does? Good.
He's the one who makes all the money.
He should. Exactly. You're a retired guy. He shouldn't take it. He shouldn't take advantage of you. He should. Son of a gun. He's a cheap bugger though, isn't he, Moj?
No, I wouldn't say he's cheap. No. he likes the high life. He likes a good steak. He likes a good cigar.
So where do you guys go?
Oh, it's automatic. It's the Hotel Sask, and he's got to have the old fashioned.
So
those are starters.
Am I getting invited tonight, this weekend?
Yeah, for sure.
Or can I come this weekend?
Absolutely.
Okay, well I'll see you Friday night.
Yeah, you know where we're going to be.
Okay, I'll come find you.
He loves those old fashions. So he's going to sit there.
Yeah. Good.
The other thing, we were looking for a good restaurant in Regina. What can you recommend?
What can I recommend? What do you like?
You'll look at me. Do I look like I push anything away?
Well, let me think about that, and I'll
Think
get
about
back to
it
you.
and
I'll get back
and
to you.
give us a recommendation because I'd love to try something new.
Okay.
I want to try something, new.
Decent. Okay, good. I'll figure it out, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Cheers.